Well, I find it quite funny actually, because politicians also have a right to borrow money as long as they meet the terms and conditions and the criteria for borrowing. Having said that, I think the issues they raised about money laundering, I think it's important. That's always been there. But I think it's important because of the problems we have right now on the monetary side and not able to grow the economy. I think the CBN should be very careful not to be seen to be dabbling in politics or being politicized, and let the independent National Electoral Commission or the Electoral Commission Office, let them focus on the messaging, and let the law enforcement agencies, the EFCC, the Nigerian police, let them do their diligence. And I'm sure that we already have a financial surveillance unit, and let these guys do their job. The central bank trying to issue directives into politics and politicians is not very. I don't like that, because I think it seems the CBN is beginning to move away from its traditional role as monetary policy and financial regulator into the realm of enforcement and become political. So I think they should focus on the rest and let the INEC and the rest of the security agencies do their job.
Yeah, but from the comments though, I get the sense that CBN was trying to post on the premise that maybe some infractions of like manner have happened in the past.
I don't think so. I mean, banks are very responsible organizations, and they understand they have a lending policy. And if you go into the credit committee of any bank, there are all kinds of lending requirements, politically exposed people. There are all kinds of criteria that banks have to put into place. And the risk management oversight is now more apparent, and to be able to make a decision on a loan. So I think we should let the banks do their jobs and let the CBN do its job.
Okay, I think it brings up the whole conversation around transparency in raising campaign funds. You know, when you look at how this has been in Nigeria, would you say we need more clarity on how parties are raising funds for their campaigns?
There is clarity. There's a law, and I think that's even what is more important. There's a law on how much you can raise for campaign financing. There are limits to all these things. So with everything else in Nigeria, the law is there. So what's important now is, like I said, is for the financial surveillance units within the EFCC and the Nigerian police to do their job. And politicians have a way of countering each other. So if my opponent tries to raise more money than me, I'll try and find out and leak the information and report him to the police. So they have more at stake because they don't want that to be used for them as a minus for campaigning. So I believe the checks and balances are in the system, and that's why I'm saying it's important that the INEC, the Electoral Commission, should begin to highlight this in its campaign to be able to let people understand and let people understand the laws that are there. And I think they're better off doing that than the central bank trying to highlight that.
And especially in the time where technology has made a lot of these things very easy. People have GoFundMe accounts and they can easily track and trace how much they earn.
Exactly.
What do you say about the role of technology?
There's no doubt. FinTech, I think, is a game changer, especially in the African continent. In Nigeria, we also have a lot of biometric identification. Every account is tied to a BVN specific user ID number. So the checks and balances are in the system, and I think we should just let the system work.
Okay, now let's move on to the other angle of this conversation, states and their revenues, basically. We see the usual suspects still coming up tops there, Lagos, Rivers, and Ogun State. What do you make about this figure released by the National Bureau of Statistics, the 27.7% higher revenues for states?
Very interesting, I think, in the sense that you're seeing that there's been a 27% increase in that. I think it was about 434 billion as of last year, and 453 billion last year, and it's grown up to about 580 billion this year. So it's quite impressive in the sense that despite the fact, or in spite of the fact that the economy is declining in terms of the trajectory of growth, the states have been able to look inwards and to be able to generate revenue. But if you break that down into some more details, you find out that 8 states actually were declining, and 28 states actually saw an increase, which is not bad. So 28 states out of 36 states in the Federation saw an increase in their IGR. So the trajectory of that is clear, and I think for the governors, I think they realize now that charity has to indeed begin at home. And don't forget that the debt profiles for most of these states have gone up significantly because a lot of them have been bailed out by the federal government, not being able to pay salaries. So the debt burden is also increasing. So it's important that they're able to diversify their revenue base and increase their IGR to sustain them. But I think the key surprise we need to see here is Ogun State. And the rate at which Ogun State is going, clearly I think they're benefiting from being close to Lagos. They will probably might overtake River State within the next 1 year, and we can see them in excess of 100 billion naira a year in terms of IGR. So that is a state that we need to look out for, and I think it's positive. This is good news, and I think we should begin to encourage our governors to put more emphasis on this instead of depending solely on what they're getting from the federal government. For me,
when I see these figures and I look at the numbers, I'm more worried about the states that are, on the bottom end, because it seems they are obviously not doing some things right. Is it a case of where you just do a copy of the models of states that are doing really well and try and implement some of those, initiatives or policies within their states?
Okay, let's take a look at the states that declined this year. Abia, Anambra, Benue, Taraba, Kebbi, Kwara, Ebonyi, and Enugu states. Traditionally, states in the southeast have been very poor in terms of their revenue, internally generated revenue. And a lot of the states that are affected where you have the security challenges, Taraba, Benue, because of a lot of the problems of the IDPs, they're seen declining. So it's also quite, there's a correlation between what's happening in terms of the security situation in those states, and we can see how that is impacting on their IGR. Some states in Nigeria also are quite struggling. Some states are not economically viable, and they also have to consider to depend on the federal government. But I think a lot of people are beginning to see that. A state like Kebbi, while the IGR, I think we're not seeing it on the decline, one of the things that the Kebbi state has done is that it has turned itself into a major rice belt. Not only has it benefited from the Anchor Borrower scheme, but because of the sort of investment they've made in rice production, private participation has invested close to $1 billion in a rice mill there. So, I guess there's a trade-off.
We'll just have to keep our eyes and see how these states go. Very interesting report. I like when reports like this come. It helps the states to be more competitive with each other. I've been speaking to Tilewa Adebajo, the CEO of CFG Advisory.